Well, hello loves, and welcome back to Musey's Modern Dreadfuls. And today we are on part 4 of Me, Mizell, and Inspector Hole in the Face by Hyperobscura. And away we go, part 4. But all that changed the day we found the rabbit. The day started much like the others, with us roaming the faraway forest, Mizell poking me every 5 minutes or so, asking if I'd heard the sound of him yet, and I kept saying that I hadn't, until I suddenly did. Just ahead of us, that unpleasant scraping and creaking echoing eerily through the forest. We smiled at each other and ran toward it, laughing, abruptly falling silent when we realized what Inspector Hole in the Face had brought us. Jesus, Mizell muttered. What the heck is that? Inspector Hole in the Face stood motionless, his right hand pointing directly at the mangled carcass of a white rabbit. It lay in a small pond of blood, the white fur stained with patches of crimson. I immediately gagged when I saw it, but what was worse still was the look on Mizell's face. Sarah. He swallowed deeply. This is messed up. Why would you do that? That's sick. It wasn't me, I yelled hysterically. I could never have done that. You know that, Mizell. But the look on his face didn't change. It was disgust, loathing, but also fear and disappointment. He slowly edged away from me, tears rolling down his face. I'd never seen him like that before, and it made me immensely sad and incredibly angry at the same time. It was him! I pointed at Inspector Hole in the Face. It was the inspector! He isn't real, Sarah, Mizell yelled back. You made him up. It was you all along. Just admit it. No, it wasn't. You know me, Mizell, I sobbed. It wasn't me. He just stood there, blinking, like he was deciding whether or not to believe me. I got down on my knees and cradled the poor little creature in my arms, blood dripping down my clothes. We have to bury it, I murmured. It's the right thing to do. You're right, Mizell lowered his head. I know a place. Does that mean you believe me? I looked at him and sniffed. It means... He met my gaze. It means that I don't know. Mizell sauntered toward the trail, and I followed close behind, still holding the dead rabbit like a baby. I threw worried glances back at Inspector Hole in the Face as we slowly made our way through all the thick undergrowth, but he didn't seem to move at all, still just standing there, still pointing at the spot where the rabbit had been. Where are we going? I asked once we'd located the trail. I don't know. Mizell stopped, a worried expression on his face. I have this feeling like I know a place. I can't explain it. Freakerson! A violent shout permeated the air. What did I tell you? We turned around to see Freddie Purcell's aggressive figure approaching us, and Mizell quickly grabbed a big rock on the side of the trail, slinking behind me stealthily. Freddie? I stammered. What are you doing here? This isn't your part of the woods. I'm looking for my sister's bunny, Freakerson, he frowned. What's it to you? He suddenly stopped dead in his tracks, eyes locked on the wretched, mangled thing in my arms. I stumbled back in fear, dragging Mizell with me, dropping the dead rabbit to the ground with trembling hands. I can explain, I muttered. It's not what it looks like. I could practically see Freddy's eyes turning red with anger as the realization slowly made its way to his conscious mind. He clenched both fists, and without warning, he came running towards us, screaming bloody murder. "You'll die for this, Freakerson," he yelled. "You're just as sick as your brother was." I stumbled back into Mizell, and we both fell to the ground. Before I could get back up, Freddy was on top of me, locking my arms down with his knees. In his right hand, he held a rock, slowly rising it above his head. In that moment, I knew I was done for. I knew this is where I was going to die. But then, I saw the look on Mizell's face. He was lying on the side of the trail, eyes wide with fear. At first I thought he was scared of Freddy, scared of me. But then he said it. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. "What is that?" It was the sound of metal scraping against metal. A loud, unpleasant screech echoing through the forest. This time it was deafening. Omnipresent, brutal, and terrifying. Freddy didn't seem to care, though. All of his focus was still targeted on me. I tried to speak, tried to warn him, but it was too late. A pale hand grabbed him by the throat, and he didn't even have time to scream. He was lifted into the air, and moments later, I heard a sickening crunch as he was slammed into the ground with immense force. I scrambled to my feet unsteadily, only to stagger back to the sight before me. Inspector Bull in the face was on top of the dazed Freddy, both arms raised over his horrifyingly hollow head. He turned to me slowly, the spiraling darkness of the gaping chasm ringing in my mind like a voice. If he could have, he would have smiled. Somehow, I knew this. Then, with a swift movement, he turned back to Freddy, and without hesitation, Inspector Hole in the Face brought both fists down into his face with such force that I could see one of Freddy's eyes popping. "Holy shit!" Mizell exclaimed, his face now pale as snow. "Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit!" Inspector Hole in the Face just kept smashing both fists down in Freddy's face for minutes. Blood and other unnameable fluids squirted all over. The squelching, gruesome noises getting louder and louder, and I couldn't move an inch. I had to watch it. Had to register every one of those hits until finally there was nothing left of his face to hit, just a hollow crevice where there used to be a face. Then Inspector Hole in the Face got to his feet, turned to Mizell and me, bowed theatrically, and disappeared into the forest once more. "You saw him too, didn't you?" I muttered to Mizell, slumping down on the ground next to him, my head spinning, stomach churning. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes, I saw him too." And that was part 4 of Me, Mizell and Inspector Hole in the Face. And we have 1 or 2 sections left. It's not over. It's far from over. Well, actually, not far from over, but it's been such a joy doing this. And again, keep an eye on Dr. Creepin's channel for a series of collabs, but by me and a bunch of your other favorite horror narrators. Until then, Yippee-Ki-Ya, Musey-Lovers. I will talk to you soon, and stay spooky. Bye now.